Next stock on our radar. In the second quarter, the company saw revenue growth of about 14%. The question is, how solid has Q3 been? And now, as we're stepping into the new year, what are the trends that we can perhaps expect? Well, we have Dhruv Shringi, CEO of Yatra Online, to take us through some of these trends that have played out. Dhruv, thank you very much for joining in. Season's greetings to you and a very happy new year. Before we talk about business, I must get straight away to the elephant in the room, and the elephant happens to be a little island of Maldives. I'll put the caveat on the table because for you, it's not just the B2C business. You guys are pretty big on the corporate travel side as well. But having said that, in the last couple of weeks and days, have you seen any sort of a fallout on your volumes, even on the B2C side? And how do you expect something like this to play out? It's a bit of a black swan event. We've not seen a country pretty much get blacklisted, publicly because of diplomatic reasons.
Sure. And firstly, let me start off by thanking you for having me on your show, and season's greetings to you as well. See, this is a very peculiar situation. I think we've had, we've hardly ever had precedences like this where it's a country with whom we are broadly on friendly terms. And yet we find ourselves in a scenario where, some elements in that government have made some remarks against the country, and more specifically against the PM. And in that scenario, we are finding ourselves in the middle of the crosshair, so to speak of. My take on this is that over the last few days, we had actually first hoped that this would play out in a diplomatic manner. And between the countries, they would be able to get to some sort of at least an amicable resolution to this matter. However, it just seems to be, escalating beyond that right now. It looks that from a, Maldives perspective, India maybe not, might not be the key tourist market, and they are looking elsewhere for growth in terms of their tourism sector. And if that be the case, from an India tourist perspective, just to put some context to it, there are upwards of 22, 23 million people who are traveling out of India. Only about 210,000 go to the Maldives. So it's a relatively small and niche destination. So for Indian travelers, Maldives might not be the most important destination, but I think in the flip context for Maldives, India is one of the most important tourism partners, at least as of now. So I would expect, maybe some more diplomatic dialogue to take place out of Maldives to bring a amicable resolution to this. But in the interim, at least from our perspective, we are promoting more domestic tourism. This is a sector right now which is really hot. We are seeing newer destinations emerge. Obviously, Lakshadweep has been in the news. The kind of search volume that we are seeing for Lakshadweep at this point is truly phenomenal. Ayodhya is another destination which is really top of mind right now. We are seeing significant amount of heightened interest in Ayodhya. So we are seeing a lot more focus right now from the consumer's perspective on domestic tourism. And this seems to be shifting from looking at international destinations to maybe considering domestic destinations much more favorably in the current year.
Sure. So, Dhruv, just to follow up on this, when you said that there's heightened interest, you're saying in terms of more searches for Ayodhya and Lakshadweep, right?
Yes, that's right. Now, these destinations, to bear in mind, still have very limited amount of infrastructure, right? Ayodhya still has a bit more. Lakshadweep is still in the, very nascent stages. But if I just contrast with how things played out with the Andamans, how things played out with Leh, Ladakh in the course of the last 10, 12 years, when I look back 10, 12 years ago, we guys were running charter flights into these destinations. We were at times even putting up luxury tents because that was the kind of scarcity of infrastructure which was there in these markets. And today, if you see Leh, Ladakh, you've got tremendous amount of flight capacity going in. Same with the case with Andamans. You've got a lot of hotel infrastructure which has come up in the past decade as well. So my sense is over the course of the next 10 years, we'll see that kind of development in infrastructure happening in these other emerging markets.
Dhruv, just a point here. While I get the fact that you also are promoting domestic destinations and there's a lot of interest, as searches point out, some of your competitors have actually, decided to not take bookings for Maldives. Now, is that even a line of thought that you have at all? And how does one sort of respond to that, given, again, these unprecedented moves that we're seeing in the travel industry?
Yeah, so, initially, as I mentioned, our view was that this is something that between the governments should sort out, right? We don't want to directly get involved in this. But having seen this play out over the last couple of days, now we are at a stage where we are actively considering whether this is something that we should, stop selling, or at least, for the time being, the view that we've taken is we'll stop promoting. We might not stop selling, but we will definitely stop promoting the destination proactively. I think that's where we stand as of today. That I think ultimately we want to give the customer the choice, but
Sure.
the flexibility that we have is in deciding what destinations to promote and where to focus our efforts and energy.
Dhruv, you spoke about a surge in searches for Lakshadweep and Ayodhya. What's the rough increase in searches and bookings for these two destinations?
See, Lakshadweep's capacity is very limited, so take that into account. But in terms of searches over the last 4 days, I mean, we are seeing almost a 30x, a 3000% plus increase in terms of searches in Lakshadweep. It is pretty crazy right now how, one small incident has just brought the entire destination into focus. In terms of Ayodhya, Ayodhya just, over the course of the last 12 months has been seeing heightened amount of interest, even month on month. So this is between, December and the first 10 days of Jan. The increase is almost 70% in terms of searches for Ayodhya. And people are
Okay.
now evaluating options, with Ayodhya, where you could do a trip into Lucknow and then drive. It's like a 2.5 hour drive from Lucknow. You've got much better hotel supply available in Lucknow, and people are evaluating trips like that, right? So you're creating a
Got it.
new circuit, so to speak of, which would be Lucknow as a base and then traveling to Ayodhya and back.
Fair enough. So on Ayodhya, which has been an area of interest for a while now, searches are up significantly. What about bookings? What's been the increase in bookings? And will it be a material revenue driver for an OTA?
See, in terms of bookings as well, right? While searches are up 70%, bookings are also up, upwards of 50+%, right, in this destination. But because the inventory is still fairly limited, it's not going to be a material contributor to revenue just yet. We will need to see supply improve over the course of the next 12 years and 12 months, sorry, and all the conversations we've had with the key hotel chains. This is one of those destinations that all of them are prioritizing to build out more infrastructure. So I think over the coming years, if I look at from a 3 year point of view, I think just the entire theme of religious travel will become a very meaningful contributor for the OTAs. This is an area where, we can bring in a lot of efficiency in terms of the booking process. We can bring in a lot more transparency. So this is what I would see religious travel over the next 3 years becoming a key driver in terms of margin contribution. We've seen Vaishno Devi, we've seen Tirupati, these kinds of destinations over the course of the last few years gain a lot of traction. But I think there are newer and more avenues which are emerging. Varanasi has been one which has seen heightened amount of interest in the last 12 months. Similarly, Ayodhya. So I think as a theme, this would become a meaningful theme for the OTAs.
I guess these new themes have taken over the original theme that we thought we'll discuss with you. That was end of the year, New Year's, etc. But we've unfortunately run out of time. But it's good, right? Because it seems that travel is booming in the new year with a lot happening. Thank you very much for joining in, Dhruv. And we leave the rest of the conversation for another time, perhaps after your third quarter results are out. Appreciate you joining us on the show today.
My pleasure. Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick break. Come back with more on the markets.